I've been really invested in Amazon's Fallout series like a lot of you out there. As a casual fan of these games, it's nice to see an adaptation that loves its source material while also creating something new. However, this show has something fascinating built into it that not a lot of people are discussing, which is surprising because, well, it explains a lot of where we are at.
And now, a brief word from Bear Bites.
Let's have a bit of a refresher so we are all on the same page. Cool? Okie dokie.
Okie dokie.
Fallout, the video game series, was created by Tim Kaine and Leonard Boyarsky in the late 90s. While at Interplay Entertainment, they conceptualized a Western RPG that took inspiration from 1987's Wasteland, which in turn took inspiration from Mad Max. They wanted an RPG set in a futuristic dystopia with violence and crude humor. In this era of RPGs, fantasy games based on D&D, your Baldur's Gates, your Neverwinter Nights, were the status quo. On top of this, Tim and Leonard wanted the player to lead with their own morals. On a design level, Fallout wasn't going to spell it out for you that what you are doing is right or wrong, but rather, it's your call. Morality systems had existed in games before Fallout, like in the previously mentioned Baldur's Gate, but Fallout's morality would offer choices like, do I support the benevolent but volatile sheriff of Junktown or the stable but evil mob boss? Am I willing to steal a water purification ship from a society of ghouls or find a better answer, knowing time is ticking down on my vault's survival? It respects you to make that choice, but ultimately has a message within that freedom. It's an exploration of humanity, but I'm getting ahead of myself. To fast forward a bit, in 2007, the now crippled Interplay made the decision to sell the license rights of Fallout to Bethesda Game Softworks while continuing to produce their own Fallout MMO. This led to the production of Fallout 3, a game, no I will not address you elephant, that has still kept that core idea alive, focused on a grim atmosphere of post-nuclear Washington DC while letting you shoot people with a rocket launcher that fires teddy bears. This game would go on to become a pop culture legend, massively increasing the relevancy of Fallout in the eyes of the American public. And in the 2020s, Todd Telling Lies Howard saw an opening to adapt this work to the silver screen, hand in hand with Amazon. And after 4 years of development, Season 1 of Fallout carried itself proudly. Amazon's Fallout follows 3 different protagonists as they navigate the post-apocalyptic wasteland. Lucy, played by Ella Purnell, is a vault dweller, part of a generation of people who sheltered themselves into vaults before the bombs dropped and ruined the world. Maximus, played by Aaron Moten, is a member of the Brotherhood of Steel, a militaristic faction that tries to bring order to the chaotic wasteland in their own brutalist pseudo-religious cultural way. And finally, the Ghoul, played by Walton Goggins, the fan-favorite gunslinging outlaw with a big iron on his hip that has slowly been withered away by the world around him. While these 3 characters might not have a lot in common at face value, each of them have a common interest that drives the plot along in the form of Lucy's father, Hank, played by Kyle MacLachlan, who knows more about the end of the world and the stakes of the vaults than he lets on. While Fallout's plot is very interesting in its own right, the main appeal of the show is seeing how sad, crazy, and at times funny the world has gotten. Society, despite the bomb's best efforts, still functions in its own fucked up kind of way. There is a semblance of order in the chaos. But that order isn't really ideal for anyone participating in the game. Lucy, coming from her picturesque vault that values the golden rule in HR propaganda, is way out of her element in this cruelty of the wasteland. Maximus, who grew up in this world exposed to that cruelty, tries to find meaning and companionship in the Brotherhood and rooting for its goals. And the Ghoul, who actually lived during the pre-bomb era, succumbed to that cruelty and the worst parts of the future's humanity. These characters' viewpoints do seep into one another as they scramble for answers, Lucy's dad, and the strange MacGuffin that is intertwined with him. For example, when Lucy is held prisoner by the Ghoul after she was used as bait, she mentions the golden rule to him.
You can't treat people like this!
Yeah, why's that?
Because of the golden rule. Do unto others as you'd have done unto you.
It's only by the end of the season where we see that repaid by the Ghoul, allowing her to travel with him to get revenge on her father. It's not a full 180 for his character, but he does develop sympathy for Lucy, and the willingness for her to even want revenge shows her coming to terms with the wasteland's mob justice. We see the vault that she came from, they are some of the most complacent people by design. The Ghoul gets to remember what humanity felt like, while Lucy begins to understand her privilege and how she navigates the world. It's an exchange of ideals, and it leads to very interesting interactions between these 3.
You wanna have sex?
You mean use my cock?
You like pornos? Pornos. Give you a boner?
Okay, back to humanity. I do think Amazon's Fallout succeeds in driving home this ambiguous morality that the original games preached. It was a conscious decision to not only have 3 protagonists, but hold back from any viewpoint taking the limelight. After all, everyone is trying to deal with this shit world. If one person had all the answers, then there wouldn't be a shit world to begin with. It would have been very easy to just make Lucy the main character who learns to survive in the wasteland while not losing her moral center. But it avoids that. One of my favorite examples of this is when Lucy is traveling with Maximus and they reach a bridge with strangers on the other side. Maximus wants Lucy to give him the gun to make this quick and easy. Lucy, however, wants to believe that human decency will win out, and she insists that a peaceful approach is the way to go. It doesn't go well, to put it lightly. It is a harsh reminder for her that the golden rule she holds so highly only works if others play by the same rules. It's a sobering moment for the character, one that lasts into season 2, which is currently airing as I write this. While I can't pass overall judgment on the season, I think what's offered so far has been great, especially considering the troubles adaptations can have. I think it really comes down to that moral dilemma for me that the games nail. A seemingly average person with a good head on their shoulders trying to make sense of this fucked up world, and why do I feel like I'm repeating myself? Okay, so genuinely I want to ask you guys if I'm going crazy here, so just hear me out. I used to watch The Boys, another hit Amazon show, quite a bit. It was pretty good when I started, again another adaptation, this time based on the comic book by Garth Ennis and Derek Robertson. If you are unaware of the plot, essentially it equates to what if our modern society had superheroes, not through a fantastical lens like Marvel or DC, but more of a Amazon lens, I guess. Good fit. Basically, corporate shit polls, corruptions, you get the idea. Our protagonist, Huey, is an everyman good guy that is thrown into the true nature of heroes after his girlfriend is murdered and joins a special ops force that has questionable methods to get revenge. He's constantly at odds with the leader of the group, Butcher, who is a reflection of what Huey could become if he were to be kept swamped in this mentality. I don't think it's crazy to say that there are big similarities between the writing structure of The Boys and Fallout. On a surface level, we still see the same shock factor that keeps the tone consistent, whether you like that or not is a different story. But looking deeper, it's the same struggle for our main character. A well-intentioned person thrown into a cynical world full of shitty people accompanied by a person and or group of people that have lived and grown in said cynical world. This person goes on to try and fix the world by imposing their, call it, naive viewpoint? Maybe not naive, as they're somewhat aware of the darkness that can lie in the hearts of people. No, I'd say it's either nihilistic positivity if you think they're full of shit, or exercising genuine optimism if you think they mean well. Hell, even Has Been Hotel, another Amazon show that I spent way too much time talking about in the last video, does this with Charlie. Now, I understand each of these stories does something different with their main characters when reality starts to kick their teeth in. The Boys has Huey grow more and more into a Butcher-type person, which comments on how revenge is ultimately placing himself firmly in the very underworld he's trying to destroy. Has Been, with what we have so far, seems to vindicate Charlie in most cases of this behavior, while still trying to demonstrate how self-destructive it can be when you push it too far. And Fallout, again with what we know as of now, is somewhere in the middle, a yin-yang balancing of this nihilistic positivity with genuine optimism. So with their paths ending in different places, it seems like there is not much to discuss then, right? Well, that setup being the same thing is still kinda weird. So I thought about this for a good while. I feel as if Amazon has a winning formula here. It's not like a new thing, it's a fish out of water story. Fallout even makes a nod to this in the first season with the Lucy Bates scene. So what's the deal then? Well, it occurred to me that all of these shows are aiming close to the same age bracket. The primary demographic of Fallout, The Boys, and Has Been are older teens to young adults, making up Gen Z and the youngest members of millennials. A group that generally likes this kind of shock. A group that is attracted to these genres and or IPs. A group that is struggling to acclimate to a new world. Lucy, Huey, and Charlie are guides for the lessons on how to deal with this increasingly harsh world. And more importantly, it's a lesson for the abrupt loss of innocence. We all lose our innocence eventually, that's just a fact of life. We aren't Peter Pan living in Neverland. It's part of becoming an adult, a necessary step in growing as a person, literally and figuratively. way. But that loss of innocence isn't consistent from generation to generation, even from person to person. At some point, the world comes knocking, we just don't know when. But I find it interesting that it seems to be coming sooner and sooner. And that shift in tempo, that exponential increase, is from the internet. Not to sound like an old bear, I mean, I was one of the first generations to grow up with the internet, but it's the major thing that seems to be causing this, right? The internet, without a doubt, has done good in educating the mass population and providing the entire collection of human knowledge in arm's reach. Sure, but with that comes a price, and with internet access increasing from all ages, that goes in tandem with the horrific stuff too. You can try to shield it, granted that's more of a parenting conversation, but ultimately it's impossible to hide or block. Whether you see it through the news or through some form of social media, you have a front row seat into a Xerox of the human experience, good and bad. Lacking definition, but the point comes across nonetheless. How do you deal with something like that so suddenly? You are thrusted into this confusing, seemingly cruel world. Out of the safety of childhood and directly into being an adult, no progression, just in the blink of an eye. And that's where these shows, these stories pick up. One of the core responsibilities and functions stories serve is to pass knowledge and to help guide others through shared experience and feeling. They can do all sorts of things too, sure, but deep down, these works of art function to convey a point. The theme, the lesson, the takeaway, all of it is for you. It makes you feel less alone. It gives you a comforting nod that, hey, I'm with you, buddy. And with that, here's what you need to do if I were you. There was a lack of stories addressing this very needed gap in understanding. When we watch Lucy adjust to the wasteland's cruelties, it ends up being a soothing balm for those who were privileged enough to not witness travesty firsthand until it busted down your doors and got in your face. When we watch Huey get involved with fighting the status quo of superheroes and coming to terms with the devastatingly evil humans behind the suits, we nod along. When Charlie realizes that her optimism can't just force people to change no matter how much she believes in them, we're meant to reflect on our demons. And all of those stories came to speak to a generation of people who grew up having to dodge videos of people sitting on jars, and no, I'm not going to explain that one further.
Oh! I'm okay.
How could I possibly explain to my parents that in school, someone pulled out their phone and showed me a video of a guy setting himself on fire? True story, by the way, hell of a day in middle school, he just had that on his phone. Stories had to adapt to help fill this void. Whether it's people not willing to change even in awful situations, your heroes being monsters, or the world being fucked by your own privileges. Fallout has been and the boys, while not being perfect, do service that need. If I'm off the mark though, I would love to hear what you think about this thread. Do you find this kind of formula tiring, or do these kinds of shows, even ones I haven't mentioned, help you? Regardless, we gotta navigate this wasteland together, one step at a time.